All right, Shalom. First and foremost, I'd like to begin by giving all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shah, Bahashem, Rakak, Wadash. Double honors to the apostles and the elders of the great millstone who taught me this truth. Much respect to the Akim out there labor in his work, and peace and salutation to the hopefully elect that are scattered abroad. To you I say, Shalom. So I wanted to briefly go into this whole Gentile issue about the natural heathen being able to receive salvation, right? And that's actually one of the most blasphemous things you can teach as an Hebrew Israelite, all right? Showing that these individuals who are doing so have more than likely taken it back, man. They have, received a check to corrupt the word of Most High. And you got individual sellouts who will do this, man. It's nothing new. It's always been sellouts in Israel. So, how much more today? But anyway, as we approach the end, the Bible warns about these very things in which we're seeing, so that you who truly believe will not be swayed by these seducing spirits. Because those who are not rooted, those who are not found upon the foundation of Yahweh Shai are going to be, sifted. They're going to start entertaining these ideas of the natural heathen being saved, and they're going to be destroyed, man. So it's our job and it's our duty to warn you, to keep you in line with the correct teaching. So 1 Timothy 4:16, NLT, keep a close watch on how you live and on your teaching, showing that the teaching is key. And what is the key to? Let's read on. Stay true to what is right for the sake of your own salvation and the salvation of those who hear you. So the doctrine, the teaching, the correct teaching is synonymous with your salvation. You being able to receive the correct doctrine and to abide within it solidifies whether you're going to be saved or destroyed. All right. So this is the reason why we always get on false leaders and camps who are teaching perverse things that are not in line with the script, because if you hearken into those things, then you too are going to be destroyed right along with them. So let's go to Romans 16 real quick. In verse 17, it says, now I beseech you or beg you, brethren, mark them which cause division. The word mark goes into scopeo, which means to examine. Mark them which cause divisions and offenses contrary to the doctrine which ye have learned, and avoid them. Because the foundation has already been set, the foundation as far as, who salvation is for, what the name of the Lord is, what the Lord is intended to do, all right, as far as destroying America to save his people, it has already been set, all right? These teachings have already been solidified, and all we got to do is remain in them and build off of that, So the apostles didn't teach you that the Gentiles can make it, all right? Cornelius wasn't Edomite. No, Cornelius, all right, had to be a Jake, just based off who salvation is for. That's easy to understand. Because you got to think, like, salvation, what is salvation? What is the Lord's purpose, man? What is the Lord's purpose? Let's get Malachi real quick. 3 and 6. So here it says, for I am the Lord Yahweh, I change not, therefore ye sons of Jacob are not consumed, man. So the Lord ain't never changed his stance as far as his intent, purpose, and will for his people, which was to get them the kingdom of heaven and to inherit all these different nations which were created to be slaves and servants. When the Lord delivered the Israelites out of Egypt, all right, he told them that they were a holy people who the Lord wanted to be above all nations. And Deuteronomy 28 gives you a list of the obedience, 1 through, I think, 14, and the list of disobedience from 15 on down to like 68. And so as we couldn't keep that covenant that was made through Moses, right, well, we were cast down. And ultimately, when you go to Deuteronomy 28 and 64, this will be one of those curses. And the Lord Yahweh shall scatter thee among all people. See, among these different nations, from one end of the earth even unto the other. And thou shalt serve other gods, which neither thou nor thy fathers have known, even wood and stone. Right? So among these different nations, we will develop and take upon the customs of these different heathens, man. In particular, during the time of the Greeks, right? Because the Bible lists 4 kingdoms in which we would fall up under, And Daniel the second chapter, and also Daniel the seventh chapter, where it deals with the four beasts. But the second chapter deals with the statue, all right, which is a representation of these four kingdoms. So the first kingdom was the Babylonian Empire, and which would be captive under. The second would be the Medo-Persian Empire. The third one would be the Greeks, all right, and the fourth would be Rome. So right here, Daniel 2:36, and we just read ahead, and it says the interpretation, Babylon, the first kingdom, right? That was the first one. Then you had the Medo-Persian Empire, and then you had the Greece Empire with the Greeks. And after that, you had, of course, the Roman Empire, when Yahushua was on the scene with the apostles, and which were subject unto the Romans, the Edomites. So prior to that, it was the Greek Empire, in which we would be held captive under. So what happened during this Greek Empire? The Bible outlines all these different kingdoms, but somehow the Greek Empire, is not covered in the original, 66 books of the Bible. And so you got to go into the Apocrypha. You got to go into the time of the Maccabees, the time of, Alexander the Great, in which when he died, 4 generals arose. Who was that? Cassandra, Ptolemy, Seleucid, and Lacenaeus, right? In which out of the Seleucid Empire, you had, who was Antiochus Epiphanes, who arose up, and through him, he started to pretty much persecute the Jews back then, right? And caused them to convert into the Greek fashion. They became Hellenized, right? So that's how we would worship these different idols and gods and pretty much lose our heritage. We'll start calling ourselves Greeks. You know what I'm saying? Matter of fact, let's go to First Maccabees real quick. And verse 40. So here, verse 41, moreover, King Antiochus wrote to his whole kingdom that all should be one people, and everyone should leave his laws. So all the heathen agreed according to the commandment of the king. Yea, many also of the Israelites consented to his religion. See that? And sacrificed unto idols and profaned the Sabbath. For the king had sent letters by messengers unto Jerusalem and the cities of Judah, that they should follow the strange laws of the land, and forbid burnt offerings and sacrifice and drink offerings in the temple, and that they should profane the Sabbaths and festival days, and pollute the sanctuary and the holy people, set up altars and groves and chapels of idols, sacrifice swine's flesh and unclean beasts, and that they should also leave their children uncircumcised, and make their souls abominable with all manner of uncleanness and profanation. And the reason why this is done is because of this right here, to the end that they might forget the law and change all the ordinances, man. Okay? So our people forgot the law because they were converted and conformed to the image of the Greeks. All right? And whosoever will not do according to the commandment of the king, he said, should die. So you see how you got people who pretty much, forsook the covenant and chose to convert because their life was in danger. You got people who was tortured, people who were thrown over walls, right? People who were hung. So they feared their death so much to where they converted. Let me see here. Now, it got to the point of where a decree was made that they couldn't call themselves Jews anymore. 2 Maccabees 6:1, not long after the king sent an old man of Athens to compel the Jews to depart from the laws of their fathers, and not to live after the laws of the Most High, and to pollute also the temple in Jerusalem, and to call it the temple of Jupiter Olympus. All right. So skipping on down, verse 6. Neither was it lawful for a man to keep Sabbath days or ancient feasts, or to profess himself at all to be a Jew. So what would they call themselves? Greeks. Right? So you had a certain remnant who fell away from their heritage, and they became Greek in fashion. So over time, when they grew up in the Greekish fashion, they had children. Those children grew up in the Greekish fashion. That's where you get the scattered Israelites in the New Testament from. Those who were Hellenized. So when you read the writings of Paul, matter of fact, let's go to James real quick. All right, James 1. All right, a servant of the Most High and of the Lord Yahushua Mashiach to the 12 tribes which are scattered abroad greeting. Remember the curse, right? Scattered among all nations. So we were scattered abroad, 12 tribes. Okay. So right there is letting you know that this whole book, James, was written to those 12 tribes who were scattered abroad among these different nations. See? We were dispersed. Let's go into the word scattered real quick. So, Strong G 1290, a scattering, dispersion of Israelites dispersed among the foreign nations. All right, plain and simple. See? It says, the converted Israelite resident in Gentile countries, right? So we took up on the fashions of the Greeks, but, through the blood of Yahushua, they were grafted back in through belief, right? So not only James, but you got the book of, what is that? 1 Peter. 1 Peter 1, Peter, an apostle of Yahushua, to the strangers scattered throughout Pontus, Galatia, Cappadocia, Asia, and Bithynia, man. See? So we were scattered among these different nations because of the curse, and we lost our way. So as we were dwelling any different nations, we had tattoos, piercings, beards were cut off, you know what I'm saying? Uncircumcised. And the natural Jews, those who kept the customs, were looking at them like, like straight up filth, and it was hard for them to accept them back into the fold because of that manner of life. But, through the blood of Yahushua, through their belief, the Gentiles, the Israelite Gentiles, they were grafted back in. So 2, elect according to the foreknowledge of the Most High, right, the Father, through sanctification of the Spirit, unto obedience and sprinkling of the blood of Yahushua HaMashiach. Grace unto you and peace be multiplied. So who is the elect? Let's go to Isaiah 45, I believe, and verse 4. For Jacob my servant's sake, and Israel mine elect, I even called thee by thy name. I have surnamed thee, though thou hast not known me. All right. So the elect is Jacob. All right. It's letting you know right there. It's the Israelites. And the other nation were never called by thy name, right? Let's see what else we can get. Just going through the Spirit. So, another example. Let's go to Romans 1:7. So here it says, to all that be in Rome, beloved of the Most High, called to be saints, grace to you and peace from our power, from Yahweh our Father and the Lord Yahushua HaMashiach. So to all that be in Rome, beloved of the Most High, called to be saints. All right. Let's click on this word saint real quick. Strong G 40. All right. The most holy thing, a saint. So what makes you holy? The laws. All right. Who were the laws given to? The Israelites. Psalm 55. And verse, let me see, maybe Psalm 50. Psalm 50 and verse 5. Gather my saints together unto me, those that made a covenant with me by sacrifice. There you go. So the saints are the Israelites who made a covenant with the Most High through Moses by the way of sacrifice. So when you consider the letters written to the Hebrew, to the Gentiles or the Hebrew Israelites scattered among these different nations, it was for them to be called back because, we would be considered a no people, right? Due to being Hellenized. But Yahushua was going to pay a way for us to be brought back into the fold, to be grafted back in, so we may receive the inheritance, of, the promise through Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, so Let's see what else we can get. Because when you think about salvation, man, all right, salvation is the Israelites being redeemed from the curse of the law, man. You know, so that we can serve the Lord without offending. Because when we offend, what happens? We get cast up on the different nations, man. It's that simple. Galatians 4:4. But when the fullness of the time was come, the Most High sent forth his Son, made of a woman, made under the law. Yahweh was made under the law. Okay, he was of the tribe of Judah, to redeem them that were under the law. See, so Yahweh was sent forth to redeem them who were under the law. Who was under the law? Let's get the book of Psalm 147 in verse 19. He showed this word unto Jacob, his statutes and his judgments unto Israel. He have not dealt so with any nation, and as for his judgments, they have not known them. Praise ye the Lord. See that? So Yahweh only came to redeem those who were under the law. Let's go back to Galatians 4:5, to redeem them that were under the law, that we might receive the adoption of sons. That we might receive the adoption of sons. And even when you go into the word adoption right here, Strong D5206, it says adoption as sons, that relationship which the Most High was pleased to establish between himself and the Israelites in preference to all other nations. There you go. And Romans the 9th chapter outlines that. So this is salvation. To redeem means to buy back. So how did we become, how did the Lord buy us back? Well, through his blood, man. Okay? His blood atoned for your iniquities, so that through him you may be found perfect. So now you qualify to have, the laws inserted within your inward parts when you receive the salvation from the new bodies. Hebrews 8 and verse 8. And we'll start at verse 7. For if that first covenant had been faultless, then should no place have been sought for the second. So the fault came within the flesh. 8, again, here we go. For finding fault with them, he said, behold, the days come, saith the Lord, when I will make a new covenant with the house of Israel and with the house of Judah, all right, not with other nations. The house of Israel, the northern kingdom, so-called Latinos, Native Americans, and then the house of Judah, all right, so-called blacks. So it says, not according to the covenant that I made with their fathers in the day when I took them by the hand to lead them out of the land of Egypt, because they continue not in my covenant, and I regard them not, saith the Lord. For this is the covenant that I will make with the house of Israel after those days, saith the Lord. I will put my laws in their mind and write them in their hearts, and I will be to them a God, and they should be to me a people, right? So once the laws are put within our mind and within our hearts, we're never going to be able to, sin against the Most High again, therefore fulfilling the curses in Deuteronomy 28:15 on down, right? But only Deuteronomy 1-14 would abide, in which if we kept these laws, then we would be above all nations. So this is pretty much salvation right here. So when is that going to take place? So when you go to, I think it's 1 Corinthians 15:52. This is salvation right here for the Israelites. So it says here in verse 51, behold, I show you a mystery. We shall not all sleep or die, but we shall all be changed. All right, speaking about the elect of Israel. In a moment, in the twinkling of an eye, at the last trump, for the trumpet shall sound, okay, right before the nukes, and the dead shall be raised incorruptible, and we shall be changed. Those who died in Yahweh, they're going to rise up first. 1 Thessalonians, the 4th chapter, goes into that. Those that be dead in Yahweh shall arise first. All right, and it says, and we shall be changed. Changed to what? A new immortal being. All right, that can't sin, just like our Lord Yahweh. Hey, for this corruptible must put on incorruption. What's corruptible? These bodies, because of the sin of Adam, right? When he sinned, that sin affected the whole nation. So Yahweh is coming to redeem us from the curse of the law, because through this flesh we cannot keep it. And this mortal must put on immortality. So this death must put on immortality. So when this corruptible shall have put on incorruption, and this mortal shall have put on immortality, then shall be brought to pass the saying that is written, death is swallowed up in victory. All right. O death, where is thy sting? O grave, where is thy victory? The sting of death is sin, right? And we were made to go off. We as Israelites were subjected unto sin, man. Romans 8:20. See that? But it says, but thanks be to the Most High, which giveth us the victory through our Lord Yahweh Shah HaMashiach. Right? So the elect of Israel are going to get the victory from the penalty of the penalty of sin through the law, because his flesh cannot keep the law. So Yahweh Shah is going to give us, the new bodies, which is equating to salvation, us being delivered from our sins, and then ultimately delivered from, of course, the destruction of America, Babylon the Great, in which in that destruction, everything on this land, America, is going to perish. There's not going to be a heathen that's going to be delivered. There's not going to be anything left here living. The only thing that's going to survive is the elect. So, yeah, salvation is only for the Israelite foreigners, man. Those who were scattered because of the curses, in which the Lord redeemed back into himself to be a people. So, Lord willing, you were edified. Until next time I say, Shalom.